Hello fellow book lovers, my name is Giselle and welcome to the Adventures of Giz. So today's video is the mid-year book freakout tag and I will be linking the original creators in the description bar down below. Before I get to the video, I just wanted to say that I am fully in support of Black Lives Matter and there will be some links in the description bar down below for you to follow to sign petitions, donate or help any way that you can. So in 2020 I have read 35 books so far. The first question is the best book you have read in 2020 so far, and for that I chose House of Earth and Blood by Sarah J Maas. This for me was by far my favorite book of the year. It was so good. I did an entire reading vlog on it, but I have not edited it yet because it was really long because it is quite a big book. I think it was really good. It got straight into the action. It was really impactful. In House of Earth and Blood, which we are going to call Crescent City because that's so much shorter, in Crescent City we follow Bryce and she is just this fantastically badass character. I just adored her. She is fantastic. There are characters who we meet, I think, for 5 minutes and I love them. It is insane. I don't know how this happened. I should stop talking about Sarah J Maas. This is not a Sarah J Maas video. I need to stop talking about this. Okay, cool. Question number 2 is the best sequel you've read so far in 2020, and for this I have these two. So I have Unravel Me by Tahira Murphy. I read the Shatter Me series at the beginning of April. It was so good, and Unravel Me was my favorite book in the series so far. I've only read the first 3. I love Tahira Murphy's writing. It is so unique, so stunning, and it just really brings out Juliet's character. And in this, the plot gets super exciting. I really think this was one of the strongest books. It was done so well. The plot was absolutely riveting. It was exciting. It just held my attention, and it was a fantastic sequel. I actually think that Unravel Me was better than Shatter Me. And then we have Legendary, which is the second book in the Caraval series. I read this in the first week of January and it was so good. I was a little bit hesitant because in this book we follow a different character to the first book, and I really loved following Scarlet in Caraval, and in Legendary we follow her sister Donatella. I think it's definitely the sister dynamic that really makes these books as important to me as they are, and I loved Legendary as a sequel because other than it being so good and just the surprises being thrown at me, Caraval ended. It was so good. It was such a good book. For me, it was very psychological, especially with the magic, and it kind of messes with you a little bit. I love that about Caraval, but I think in Legendary it was so much more magical. The story and the plot was so good. We had so many exciting moments. It was so good. I think the ending was fantastic. I have a finale. I bought it during lockdown. Legendary was a fantastic sequel. It was so good, and the more I talk about it, the more I remember how much I love this book. Question number 3 is new releases that you haven't read but you really want to. First up, I have a book that was released in January. I haven't gotten it yet, but it is the 3rd book in the Truly Devious series. It is called The Hand on the Wall. I have been loving this series. It is so good. The mystery behind it is fantastic, and I just love Stevie Bell so much. She's really clever but can be kind of socially awkward sometimes, and we have this amazing setting of Ellingham Academy, which is just really creepy and adds so much tension to the plot. I definitely think that these are so good, the best mysteries I've ever read, which isn't saying much because I haven't read a lot of mysteries. But Hand on the Wall, which is the 3rd book, is one that I still really need to read and really actually just need to buy first so that I can read it. Question number 4 is the most anticipated releases for the second half of 2020, and this was really difficult. So I chose 2. Okay, one of them is a book that I've heard a lot about, and that is Where Dreams Descend by Janella Angeles, and it looks so good. It is set in this very interesting city which is just very dark and depressing, and in the city there is a circus called the Conquering Circus. A bunch of magicians are playing this game in order to see who will become the headliner for this circus. There seems to be just death, and we follow a bunch of characters and these feats and these magical things that they keep on having to do just get worse and more risky. This looks really dark and fantastic, and I'm so excited to read it. This one is These Violent Delights by Chloe Gong. This is a Romeo and Juliet retelling. It is set in 1920 Shanghai, and it follows two feuding families, but they're both gang families. So we have this very interesting setting, a Romeo and Juliet retelling. We have the 1920s, we have Shanghai. This just looks like such a good book. I believe there's a monster. I don't know if this is a human monster, like a serial killer, or if this is an actual physical monster, so I'm not sure, but this just looks fantastic. I love Romeo and Juliet. I'm so excited to read this retelling. Next up we have The Biggest Disappointments. This is a really difficult one because I tend to just love all books. I think they all have their reason for me to love them, and it's very difficult for me to give books low ratings. My lowest rated book of the year so far is Fire and Bone by Rachel A. Marks. A little bit of paranormal urban fantasy. It's got demigods and gods and just amazing mythical creatures. It's awesome, and it just was not so great because I didn't really like the main characters, which is really important. I actually spoke about this on my recent reads video. It was good, but it just wasn't good enough. So I think it was quite disappointing because the concept seemed amazing and the setting and the story itself and the plot was awesome, but it was the characters that really let me down. Another book. This is one that I've been internally warring with myself over since I've read it, and that is A Heart So Fierce and Broken by Bridget Kemmerer. And I adored every single word of the first book in this series. And this one just kind of let me down. My reasoning for not liking this as much as I should is just stupid. We don't follow the same characters. We have these new characters that we kind of have to learn to love. I'm okay with that because I quite enjoyed both of the two main characters that we follow in here. But it is the fact that a lot of the work and the character development that happened in the first book is undone in the second book. And that really saddened me because it was these characters that I really loved, even though the last chapter was just as brilliant as the last chapter in the first book. So I am very excited for the next book. I don't think this was the strongest of the two books so far. I really did like the characters though, but at the same time, just that minor character regression. And I think that was the only reason why this feels like a disappointment, but I still loved it. I think I gave it 4 out of 5 stars. So it's not like I thought it was horrible. I just was kind of sad. The next question is the biggest surprise of 2020 so far. I do think it is the biggest surprise of the year so far, and that is Dread Nation by Justina Ireland. And I finished this, I think yesterday or the day before. It was so good. It's a zombie book, but the zombies are pushed into the background and history of the world because the story is really about the characters and what they have to deal with. The characters are really so well written. I absolutely adored the main character, Jane. She is unapologetically herself. Jane is fantastically independent and awesome and badass, and is just this character that goes for it. Even if she has this internal fear, she just goes for something and she takes it and she does what she needs to do in order to survive, even if it is probably something that might just get her killed anyway. I love her. The book also has a lot of underlying politics. The time period is during the American Civil War. I've never read a book set during the American Civil War, and it is so interesting to see. Also, I believe that this is only a couple of years after slaves were freed, and there is a lot of racial tension. The racial politics of this book are so important. The political dynamics are fantastically written, and just to make it even better, there's also some LGBTQ plus rep, and we have a bisexual character, and we also have an asexual character, and I absolutely loved it so much. The next question is my favorite new author. It can either be a debut author or it can be a new to me author, and I chose two. So I chose Trisha Levenseller, which is the author of a couple of books that I've read this year. So I've read Daughter of the Pirate King, Daughter of the Siren Queen, and The Shadows Between Us. So all three of those were really good. All of them are actually quite feminist, and I really love that. They all just stuck out to me and I quite like them. And the other author that is new to me is Tahira Murphy, who wrote the Chami series. I think that her style of writing and the way that she gets into the mind of the character and writes like she is that character is really what made her such a fantastic read for me. She is just a great writer. She's an amazing author. She has fantastic fashion sense. I just have loved everything about her since I started reading her books. The next question is my newest fictional crushes. Oh, it's actually my newest fictional crush, but I'm putting plural there because it's me. And I chose 2 fictional crushes. My OG, my number one, my biggest crush in a very long time is Bryce Quinlan from Crescent City, and I am just so in love with her. She is badass, she is realistic, and just such an in-depth character, and I felt so connected to her. And the other character that I'm crushing on is Warner from the Chami series. I love him. He is also a really complex character. His character development was done so well. I just have this gigantic crush on both of them. I love them both. If I were to choose between the two, I would probably say Bryce is my number one. But Warner is pretty up there. He made a shit onto the bookish boyfriend list, so I really love him too. The next question is my new favorite character. And surprise, surprise, it is Bryce Quinlan from Crescent City. I really tried to not choose Crescent City for everything. This didn't work so well. So anyway, Bryce. Awesome. Like I said, I love her. There is so much to her character. She's badass. And you know what? Just that scene, and just I actually don't have words that I can describe her without spoiling Crescent City for anyone. So please read it because I need everyone to love Bryce as much as I do. Okay, and then number 10 is a book that made me cry. And that is Clockwork Princess by Cassandra Clare. It took me so long to read this. And when I did end up reading this, I started crying at the beginning of this book. I cried in the middle of this book. I cried for the entire last 200 pages of this book. So let's just say that a book that made me cry, I think this fits the description really well. This is just so emotional. The ending had me sobbing, ugly, out loud, sobbing, holding myself together. You know, that kind of complete emotion, and that is what this book gave me. It is so good, and it is all about the characters. That is the reason why this was such an emotional book. And that ending, which, you know what, a lot of people spoiled a lot of things about this book for me, but the last chapter was not spoiled for me, and I was shook. Because that last chapter had me happy and sad, bawling my eyes out. It was such a weird, conflicting emotions. Like, half of me was extremely happy, and the other half of me was like proper distraught. It was very confusing. It was a very emotional night for me. Yes, I can start talking about that now. Next up is number 11, which is a book that made me happy, and I have chosen The Sun is Also a Star by Nicola Yoon. It is super cute. The ending made me really happy. It was really such an impactful read, and I really, really did enjoy it. We follow a boy called Daniel, and we follow a girl called Natasha, and Natasha is going to be deported from New York that very day. So she is just spending her last day trying to make sure that she's not deported. It is a very emotional book. The ending was fantastic. I was really happy during this. It was such an emotional book, but it still made me happy, and I really liked that. Question number 12 is the most beautiful book you got this year, and for that I chose this stunning copy of Children of Virtue and Vengeance. It has sprayed edges, it is signed, and it is a hardcover, which all just made it into one of the most stunning books probably on my entire bookshelf because it is so pretty. We also have this amazing artwork of Zelia on the front cover. She is just stunning, and I just love this book so much. I haven't read it yet. I'm going to read it, but I love the look of this book so much. And then the last question. Question number 13. What book do you need to read by the end of the year? And if you have been watching my videos for any length of time, you will know my answer to that. I know that I say this in almost every single video. I will read this by the end of the year. At the end of May, I started rereading the series. So I started with The Assassin's Blade, which I've never read before, so that's really fun for me. And I do think I'm going to very slowly make my way through the rest of the series so that I can get to this final book. This was the most intimidating book on my TBR. I'll do it. I will. So there we have my mid-year book freakout tag. I hope you enjoyed this. If you did, don't forget to give it a thumbs up. Subscribe to my channel if you want some more bookish content. I was on a little bit of a hiatus, but I am back and I'm going to be posting regularly from now on. So yes, I hope you enjoyed this. I hope you had a fantastic day and I hope you have a great week. I'll be posting regularly.